Identifying problems is really easy. Pointing at problems, screaming even about problems is really easy. Coming up with and implementing solutions to those problems is the hard part. And this is something we've talked about a lot with Trump. His whole campaign is about, well, his own victimhood and him talking about how he's the biggest victim in the world, but also about pointing at sometimes a place where there's an issue, right? Like, for example, he fearmongers about crime, even though it's plummeting. Crime is a thing. It is something people are concerned with. Or inflation. These things often are lied about, but are actual things people are concerned with. Okay. But then, one of the things that we're trying to get people to wake up to is the fact that he's not actually bringing forward solutions to those problems. Often, again, they'll lie about Biden causing something like inflation. But Biden at least has proposals as to how to bring down costs, how to help working Americans. Trump really struggles to articulate what his solutions are to these problems. And I have a clip from an interview for you where this is fully exemplified, where he's asked for specifics when it comes to crime. He just struggles to give an answer that is anything that resembles a policy proposal. And that comes in stark contrast to Biden's policy on this and the results that we've seen based on those policies. So first, before getting to the moment that I'm referring to, we'll go with this sort of chronologically. At the beginning, he is asked about calling Milwaukee reportedly a horrible city, the place where he was campaigning and where he is holding the RNC.
Reported that you said about the city. They even put up billboards with what you allegedly said. So let me get right to it and ask you directly. Did you say Milwaukee is a horrible city?
No, I didn't say it. They're liars. You know they're liars. They lie about everything. They've got the worst policy in the world. They lie about every single thing they do. I chose Milwaukee. I do say, and I say it all the time.
False. That's just, we know that to not be true. There were people at the RNC who chose Milwaukee, obviously, but Trump did not choose it.
I said it to you, and I said it to anybody that wants to listen. Crime is way too high, as it is in many cities, and they got to watch the election, because the election results last time in Milwaukee were terrible. I mean, it was just terrible what happened. But other than that, I like Milwaukee. I'm the one that picked Milwaukee, and they are just such liars, such horrible people, and we have to turn it. Look, Joe Biden's the worst president in the history of our country. There's never been anybody like him, not even close, and we have to win this election.
So let me ask you about crime, because crime is an issue in cities all across America. But when
it just happens to be an issue that is getting a lot less severe rapidly under Biden.
You look at
Democrat-run cities.
You think it's just Democrats? I mean, it happens everywhere.
The top 25 cities are Democrat, and they're run by Democrats, and there's crime. You take a look at other cities, there's not so much crime, and there's virtually no crime run by Republicans. Big difference.
So Milwaukee has seen a decline over the last year, but my question to you is how will you then work with big city mayors, Democrats like Cavalier Johnson, to address issues of concern?
Just the quickest of pauses of your viewing of this video to request, if you're not already, to become subscribed to the channel by clicking that subscribe button. It's free, it's easy, but we greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
He says there's just too many guns in the hands of the wrong people.
Well,
all right, so before we get to Trump trying but failing to articulate a policy vision for how he'd address crime, it's so important that we add the note that if you're someone who wants a president with a record that reflects the plummeting of crime, then Biden's your guy, just based on the data, right? You can say, well, Biden's not the credit for that, but I'm just saying based on the data on that. But then Trump makes this point that I've been wanting to address for a while, that it's Democratic-run cities, these big blue cities that have high crime rates. First thing you should keep in mind is when they say, no, the big cities, though, focus on the big cities. Find me a big city that a Republican, I guess, mayor or city council is leading that has high crime. It's a sort of tough thing to even bring up because big cities, just generally cities, are, when thinking about sort of like larger populations, are democratic, right? So sort of all of your options are democratic. Low crime cities, high crime cities. But when you do find one like Oklahoma City, that is a red city, way higher violent crime than New York City. So that point's a little bit silly for those two reasons. And also, if we're not just in the big city category, there are absolutely super dangerous smaller towns that are more likely to be Republican. And then on top of that, I think we can all agree, if you're honest, that the state government probably has a lot more impact, a more significant impact on the systemic issues, given that these big policies that are implemented, laws being signed that change more fundamentally the systems that contribute to crime. And state by state, as we've gone over so many times, crime is disproportionately bad in red states. But then you want to judge Biden on the nationwide statistics, really good record there. A lot of blue cities are seeing huge plummets in crime right now. I think like all of the major ones are. And we went over those stats also in a past segment. So a bunch of dishonesty there, but here's Trump's policy proposal.
There's too many guns in certain hands, and certainly I would agree with that 100%. And
just doesn't want to do anything about it.
You can do various things about that, and you're going to have to do it because in some cities you have the wrong people having guns. You don't have the right people, you have the wrong people. We have to work with the Democrat mayors. They are. I mean, you take a look at the big troubled cities are run by Democrats, and we chose this one because we still have confidence in the mayor, and the mayor really wanted it, but so did other cities. We picked Milwaukee because I wanted Milwaukee. I actually was the one that wanted it, and then they come out with the fabrications, which is all they're really good at coming out with. I will say this: we're going to work with the mayors of the cities, and in some cases, governors of states, and we're going to solve the city problem. We have to get much tougher on crime.
Anything specific?
Oh, well, just basic great police work. You have to give the authority and the control back to the police. It's been totally taken away.
What does that mean? He's saying words that mean nothing, which is his specialty. Words are exiting the mouth, but it doesn't actually bring you any closer to an answer to the question. And here he's saying good policing. Well, first of all, local police, at least, that's not the federal government, in the specifics of doing good policing, but you can do reforms and you can oversee, like Biden has, the largest federal investment in public safety, law enforcement, and violence reduction, which runs parallel to this huge plummet in crime. So maybe he's saying he wants to do what Biden's doing, but surely not, because he's saying Biden's doing a terrible job. So let police do their job. Well, when he finally gives some sort of what would be a policy answer, it's a disaster.
And does this job, oftentimes they lose their pension, they lose their family, they lose their house, they lose everything. They go after them. And we can't have that. One of the things I want to do is immunity for police, where we grant them immunity. We give them protection from what happens to them. That's why you see in cities where stores...
From what happens to them?
...are being robbed, and the police are standing outside watching as they walk out with televisions and everything.
Yeah, that too. Again, shoplifting appears to be lower now than it even was during the Trump administration. And immunity, so there's already qualified immunity for police officers and other government officials in the civil cases that could be brought against them. But he wants full criminal immunity, which... sort of like with him, he wants to have full immunity. He wants to give that to police as well. Even if you're law and order, as I am, right? We want law and order. But how does that mean that we shouldn't hold accountable police too for their actions if they are incorrect, and especially they violate the law in their position? Of course they should be held accountable legally. And often, we're not seeing enough accountability. One of the ways we create a better, thriving community with great policing is holding officers accountable. Funding properly so that we can train properly, but also holding accountable properly so that we make sure we have the best officers doing the best work that we can. And so often that hasn't been the case. And then you have police doing great work, and you want to make sure those are the ones that others are learning to be like. So... a whole lot of wrong there from Trump. Then one more clip.
I think when the black people and Hispanic people too, the jobs, they look at their job numbers, they look at all of the things that we did. Nobody has done, and I say this, nobody has done more for the black person, for the black people, than anybody, than me, since Abraham Lincoln. That's a big statement, okay? Abraham Lincoln, that's a long time ago, but there's more for the, we did, nobody has.
Separate from the claim he's making, he's made that a bunch of times. Let's listen to the syntax here.
The jobs, they look at their job numbers, they look at all of the things that we did. Nobody has done, and I say this, nobody has done more for the black person, for the black people, than anybody, than me, since.
Nobody has done, and I say this, nobody has done more for the black person, the black people. Nobody has done than anybody than me. Is that what he said? Sorry, one more.
For the black person, for the black people, than anybody, than me, since Abraham Lincoln. That's a big statement.
Than anybody than me. Wow.
Statement, okay? Abraham Lincoln, that's a long time ago, but there's been no president that's done for the black people what I've done.
Cite your sources, please. Deranged. Them getting the right to vote? I don't know. Because Trump, fill in the, what is he imagining? He'll say, lowest unemployment, lowest black unemployment. Well, it got lower under Biden, so you can't cite that. Funding of HBCUs. Biden's funded them more. I don't know what else he would cite. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to get the daily extra episode of the show, you can do so by clicking that join button below.